Okay, so let's begin with live variables analysis. We have already seen informally what live variables analysis means. For live variables analysis, we are supposed to identify a set of variables that are likely to be used on some path starting from that program point, and we need to collect this information for every program point. Okay, so how do we define live variables analysis? Uh, so for live variable analysis, we say that a variable V is live at a program point P. So we're talking about a variable V, and we are talking about a program point P, which means that this is a point specific property. So we say a variable V is live at a program point P if some path from P to program exit contains an R value occurrence of V which is not preceded by an L value occurrence of V. Okay? So this definition has many loaded words. The first thing is we're talking about a variable being live, and therefore we can collect a set of variables as being live. Second thing is that we're talking about liveness of a variable at a given program point P, which means that a variable may be live at a program point P, but it may not be live at some other program point P prime. And therefore, our set of live variables could be different from one program point to another program point. What this means is we are doing analysis which is called flow sensitive analysis, of the kind flow sensitive analysis. So flow sensitive analysis says that we could potentially compute different information, or need not be different, it could be same but separate information for each program point. Okay, so this is the first point. We're computing flow sensitive information. Okay, then we're talking about paths from P to program exit. We're not talking about paths from start of the program to P. Instead, we are talking about paths from P to program exit. We are ignoring paths from start to P. So this is an interesting feature. The third thing to observe is that we're talking about some path. We are not necessarily insisting that the required property must be satisfied by every path. We're simply saying if there is some path, we are happy with it. And we will see the reason why we do so. And finally, what is the property of the path that we are talking about? We're talking about an R value occurrence of V, which is not preceded by an L value occurrence of V. So maybe here I would like to pause and ask you this question. What is R value and what is L value, and what is the distinction between them? Does anyone know? Have you come across these terms, R value and L value? Does anyone know?
L value is something that can occur on the left hand side of an assignment expression, and R value can occur on the right hand side.
Yes, but this is a very structural distinction. The semantic distinction is L value is what is used to store the result. So L value is where a variable is being modified, and R value refers to where something is being read. So this distinction is very important because we could have R value occurrences on the left hand side as well, as we saw in the previous example. So simply saying, we should have a read of a variable before the write of the variable, before any write of the variable. So let's look at these examples. In this example, this V is an L value writing into V, and this V is an R value occurrence. So in this example, we're talking about variable v, and we're talking about program point p, and we're saying if some path contains an R value occurrence of v, it turns out that this path has an R value of occurrence which is not preceded by an L value. So although we have a path along which there is no R value occurrence, for example, this has neither R value occurrence nor L value occurrence, here we have an L value occurrence, and yet we are saying that it must hold for some path and therefore V is live at P. By contrast, when we look at this program, here we do not have an R value occurrence. Here also we do not have an R value occurrence, and here also we do not have an R value occurrence, and therefore V is not live P. In this example, this is a more interesting example. We have both an L value occurrence and an R value occurrence along a path. Would someone like to say whether this is live, variable V is live at P? What would you say? We have both L value and R value occurrence in the same statement. So is it live at P or not?
It should be live.
It should be live. Should be live. Okay. Why are you saying?
Because R value is reading, so which would happen before the L value in this statement.
But L value is defining it.
Yeah, but the reading would happen before.
Yes, that is the most critical point. Reading is happening before writing. So although it's the same statement, semantically, the right hand side is evaluated before writing anything in the left hand side, and therefore in this case the R value occurrence precedes the L value occurrence, and therefore here also variable V is live. Note that this is a path based specification. What do we mean by path based specification? By path based specification, we mean that we are defining the property of a path, of a control flow path. And we will distinguish this with something else that we will see later. But here we are not talking about a particular statement, we are talking about a particular path. We are saying here is a property that must be satisfied by a particular path. Okay, we will revisit this again, but please keep this point in mind. Okay, so how do we define flow analysis for live variables analysis? So we define it inductively, as I said before. We just define the set of live variables before a basic block in terms of the set of live variables after the basic block. Okay, so we identify basic blocks within the program, and these edges here indicate control transfer between basic blocks. And for each basic block, so this is basic block K, we compute two sets, gen of K and kill of K. For this basic block I, we compute gen of I and kill of I. Here also we compute gen of J and kill of J. So here we are essentially saying that this basic block K has two successor nodes or two successor blocks. We use the term nodes and blocks interchangeably. And what we want to do is we have to define how do we compute the live variables analysis. So what do these sets gen and kill represent? The set gen contains those variables whose liveness is generated within the basic block, and the set kill contains those variables whose liveness is killed within the basic block. Assuming that we have computed this for each basic block, so these are what are called local data flow properties. How do we define them? So we say that gen is a set of variables V, which is used in basic block N and is not preceded by a definition of V. Kill n is the set of variables V such that basic block n contains a definition of V. So when we say used, we are talking about R value occurrence. For example, in this statement, z dot sum equal to y dot data plus z dot data, here x is an R value occurrence, although it appears on the left hand side. Okay, so R does not necessarily mean right, and L does not necessarily mean left. I mean, of course, L values will always appear in left, but everything that appear in left need not be an L value. Okay, so this is the use in basic block n, and we say by definition we mean an L value occurrence where we are saying value is modified and preceded within n. We are not worried about what happens outside of the basic block when we compute gen and kill. That's because we don't know yet what's happening outside of the basic block. But within a basic block, because of the property of the basic is a strictly sequential control flow, we can look at the statements one after the other. There's no control transfer in the middle of the basic block, or there is no exit in the middle of a basic block, and therefore we can examine a basic block and figure out whether within this particular basic block it is preceded by a definition or not. Okay, here also we say there is a definition of V anywhere within the basic block. We don't worry about whether it's preceded by or followed by a use or definition or some such thing. So this is how we define gen and kill. So assuming that we have defined gen and kill, now it's easy to define our data flow analysis. How do we define that? So recall that we had said that a variable is live at the exit at a program point if it is used along some path. So which means that if a variable is contained in the set in I, it must be contained in the set out k. So in and out are global data flow properties. Out, the variable out, the data flow variable out, stores the set of variables that are live at the exit of a basic block, whereas in the data flow variable in stores the set of variables that are live at the entry of a basic block. So clearly live at in of I, and there is no, this is just a control transfer, there is no modification here, so therefore it must be marked as live at the exit of k. Similarly, if something is live at the entry of j, it must be marked as live at the exit of k, and therefore mathematically we can say that out k, the set out k is a union of in I and in j. Having determined the variables that are live at the exit of a basic block, now we want to find out the variables that are live at the entry of the basic block, and this is easy. This is easy because the variables that are live at the exit block, for some of them their liveness is killed, so we remove them from out k. So we say out k minus kill k. So these are the variables whose liveness is propagated from the exit block to the entry of the block. Besides, there are some variables whose liveness is generated within the basic block, and we've already seen that. So we have some variables whose liveness is generated within the basic block. So the variables that are live at the entry of the block consists of two classes of variables. The first category of variables are those variables which become live within the basic block, and the second category, the variables which are live at the exit of the basic block but whose liveness is not killed, and therefore we simply take a union of these two. Okay, and these are what are called global data flow properties. Okay, note that this is an edge-based specification. Here we are not talking about a path. Instead, we are talking about an edge. We are defining out k in terms of its immediate successor. We are defining out k in terms of this immediate successor. We are not asking about a path. The assumption is that the in of this has inductively captured the effect of the path that follows this particular basic block. So although we had defined our property as a path-based property, here we are formally defining it. We are defining our mathematics in terms of edge-based property. And we are assuming that inductively, when we concatenate the effect of many edges, we get the effect of the entire path. Now, theoretical question is, an important theoretical question is, are the path-based specification identical to edge-based specification? Supposing I had an all-powerful method which can do path-based computation, and I had this method which does edge-based computation. Will these two give me identical result? The answer is that in case of live variables analysis, they indeed coincide. Path-based specification is indeed identical to edge-based specification. However, there are interesting analyses such as pointer analysis or constant propagation. These analyses are called non-distributive. In these analyses, the path-based specification is not identical to the edge-based specification. The edge-based specification gives us an over-approximation of the path-based specification. Intuitively, this happens because the edge-based specification may end up combining the effect of different paths in a way that leads to precision. Unfortunately, this detail is beyond the scope of our tutorial. What we're going to see today are what are called bit vector frameworks, in which case edge-based specification is always equivalent to a path-based specification. So with that knowledge, let's now look at how do we write this mathematically. So what we have done is whatever we showed here pictorially, we have written it mathematically. We say in of n is equal to out n minus kill n union gen n, and out n is equal to union of in of successors. Whereas if n is the end block, is the end of the program or end of the procedure, then no variable may be live. If you're talking about local variables, if you're talking about global variables, all global variables may be live. So we capture this effect in what is called BI. BI stands for boundary information. In-I and out-I are sets of variables, and BI is the boundary information representing the effect of calling contexts, which is empty set for local variables except for the value being returned, or it's a set of global variables used beyond a call to this particular procedure. And this can safely be approximated by the set of all global variables. Okay. The interesting thing to observe here is that in and out are these equations are an example of a system of linear simultaneous equations, and we have studied this in our schools, how to solve linear simultaneous equations. We have used Gaussian elimination method. There is something called Jacobi method, except that the equations that we have studied were equations of integer values. Here we have sets. So that's the main difference between these equations and the linear simultaneous equations that we have seen before. Otherwise, the story is the same. In fact, we use Jacobi method to solve these equations, as we shall see later. So let's look at the equations. Now, this is n, and we can instantiate this n for a variable in the control flow graph. So therefore, for our earlier example, motivating example, this is how the equations appear. out 8 is equal to empty set. We are restricting ourselves to local variables, and therefore boundary information is empty set. In 8 is out 8 minus kill 8 union gen 8. Out 7 is in of 8, 7 has a single successor. So this is how we write down the equations. The interesting thing is here at the exit of 2, out of 2 is union of in 3 and in 4, and out of 3 is union of in 2. So this is the set of equations. This is a system of simultaneous equations that we need to solve in order to perform data flow analysis of our motivating example. The interesting thing to observe is the following, that because of the presence of loop, there is a dependence, there is a simultaneous dependence, there is a self-dependence of a data flow variable. Okay, and that is why these are simultaneous equations. Observe that in of 2 is computed from out of 2. So in of 2 here is computed from out of 2. Okay, and out of 2 in turn is computed from in of 3. So out of 2 in turn is computed from in of 3. So out of 2 is computed from in of 3. In of 3 in turn is computed from, so in of 3 is computed from out of 3, which is out of 3, which in turn is computed from in of 2. So out of 3 is computed from in of 2, which means that there is a cyclic dependence of the data flow variable in on itself. There is a self-dependence. This happens in the presence of loops. If we didn't have loops, we would not have mutual dependence. We will have only one-way dependence. And this mutual dependence is what gives rise to simultaneous equations. Okay, we need to solve them simultaneously. We can't say, let's first solve this fully and then we will get the solution of the other. So we can't solve out 3 fully and then say solve in 2. Because in 2 depends on out 3 and out 3 depends on in 2. So we use an iterative method starting with a conservative value and refining the value until the values change. Okay. So let us perform live variables analysis for the motivating example. We have computed gen and kill sets here. So in this statement, liveness of W is being killed, liveness of X is being generated. In this statement, because there is no assignment, no liveness, no is killed, only liveness of X is generated. Here, liveness of X is generated and liveness of liveness of X is killed. Note that gen and kill need not be mutually exclusive. We could do both in the same basic block. Also note that in this case, we have taken a single statement as a basic block. As we go forward, we will look at this example where we will combine the effect of multiple statements within a basic block. But for now, let's keep things simple and let's talk about a single statement basic block. Note that single statement basic block still satisfies the definition, the requirement that there should be no control transfer in the middle of the basic block, and this satisfies trivially. A single statement basic block satisfies this requirement trivially. Only the maximality requirement is not satisfied. Okay, so for this particular statement, observe that liveness of X is generated and liveness of Y is being killed. For this statement, the liveness of Z is killed and no liveness is generated. In this case, liveness of Y is generated as well as killed. In this case, the liveness of XYZ is generated and no liveness is killed. Note that this X is an L value occurrence. It's not an R value occurrence. And here liveness of Z is generated and no liveness is killed. So the important point is gen and kill need not be mutually exclusive. Z is an R value occurrence and not an L value occurrence. And observe that we have been able to compute gen and kill simply by looking at statement without worrying about what's happening in the surrounding statements. Capturing the effect of surrounding statements is the responsibility of global data flow analysis, which is what we are going to do now. Okay, so we begin with the initialization empty set, and we will see later why this is a good initialization. For now, let us proceed with the assumption that we have the initialization empty set. Okay, and then from this initial value, we essentially compute in the first iteration these values, and I will pause here for half a minute for you to see that these are indeed the values that we will get in our analysis. If we compute out of n as union of in of its successors and in of n as out n from which we remove kill and add gen. For example, here out n is empty set, so nothing to be removed from empty set. Gen is Z, so union of empty set and Z gives us Z. Okay, now this, so this in is copied to the out of this. We know Z is live. Now we add to it all those variables whose liveness is generated. So we get X, Y, Z as live here. Then we get X, Y, Z as live here. From this we remove Y. So we are left with X and Z. But then the liveness of Y is generated. So we add Y back to it. So we have X, Y, Z live here. Here the liveness of Z is being killed. So we have only X and Y as live here. We have X and Y is live at the end of this basic block. And now the liveness of Y is being killed. Liveness of X is generated. So we have only X is live here. And this is where the useful. We needed out n, which is empty set. So we add the liveness of X here. So we have X as live here. Now the union of this X and this X gives us X at the exit of the statement. So we have X live here, we have X live here, and we have X live here. So this is the effect of first traversal. Here we assume that max is not a variable but a constant, and we are not tracking that particular variable. Now we need to redo this analysis. Note that for convenience, we are traversing in this direction. Nothing will go wrong if we traverse in this direction, except that nothing will go wrong as far as the result is concerned, except that computation will take more time. The computation will become inefficient. So we have to now redo this. We have to perform one more traversal over this control flow graph. And the only thing that changes, so this is the result in iteration 1, and this is the result that we get in iteration 2. So we mark, so things that are in brown are the values that we get in iteration 1. As we would expect, the only change could be in the part that is affected by loop, that is contained in a loop, and therefore we get X. And now if we get X as live here, and now if we were to recompute the values again and again, there will be no change. So we have converged on a solution. Technically, this is called a fixed point solution. If you have done enough mathematics, you will know what is the fixed point of a function. Fixed point of a function X is a value, fixed point of a function F is a value X, such that f of X is equal to X, meaning you apply that function and you get the same value. It's the same thing here. you have a vector of values associated with each node, and you once again compute things and there is no further change. So we have converged. Okay.